11, holding the second paragraph. We were speaking about the Bria, Yitzira, Asiya, the worlds, that the way it's hinted in the Pasuk, we explained Bria, that's called the Olam Hanashamas, Yitzira. Bria is Yesh Ma'ayin totally, Yitzira is the level of Olam Hamalachim, then there's the world of Asiya, Haruchnis and Hagashmis, and because the physical Olam Asiya Hagashmis comes with such a great power, Yesh Ma'ayin, it says on it, Af means because it's a very great jump. So first of all, Af Ifsikainian, Af separated the world of Asiya Gashmis from the world of Bria Yitzira Asiya. Another thing is that Af is also Maloshan Ribui, to show that there's a greater power in this world, because only in this physical world is it the power of the Ein Sof, because only the power of Ein Sof can create something, Yesh Ma'ayin V'ef Samuchlet, which that is the Olam Haza Hagash, the Olam Hasi Hagash. Now the Rebbe is going to continue and explain about the meaning of the term Ayin Liyesh. How does the word Ayin fit in over here in the creation? In a closing in Abriyam Ayin Liyesh, the general idea of the creation of nothing to something, though the true existence is above. So how do we say that the creation is Yesh Me'ayin? The term creation, Yesh Me'ayin, seems to indicate we are here, and what's higher than us, what created us, is not really here. It's an ayin, it's nothing. When we know it's just the opposite. The true existence is the world of the Eibishter, is the Eibishter himself. And us, it's questionable how and what we exist at all. Kol Makim still in all Nikra b'Shem Ayin. The above is called Ayin. So he says from two perspectives is it called Ayin. Hein Mitzad Hamayla v'Hein Mitzad HaNivra. Both from the perspective of above and both from the creation's perspective, it's also called Ayin. So he's going to explain each one. Mitzad Hamayla Nikra Ayin, from the perspective of above, it's called Ayin. L'fi Sha'isavas Eina Ela Me'ar Ba'al, because the coming into being of the world is only from a ray of the Eibishter. That since the main aspect of Hashem is not the fact that the worlds come into being from Him, and in comparison to the main aspect of Hashem, the main aspect of Elikus, the power of creation is considered insignificant. This ha'ara is considered only nothing. It's completely inconsequential. It's completely nothing in comparison to the Eibishter himself. That's one reason why it's called Yesh Me'ayin, because the power of creation is nothing in comparison to Hashem. Another reason why it's called nothing is compared to us from our perspective. Nikra Ayin Gam L'Gabi Yesh HaNivra, it's also called nothing in comparison to the created Yesh. He have Shadas, Sheyucholias Metzias Yesh, the possibility there could be an existence of a Yesh. Idafke Ba'oifen She'einoi Margish Es HaKoyach HaBoirish Al Yodim Nivra. It's necessary for the Yesh's own existence that he's not aware, he doesn't feel the power of the Creator, that through that power he was created. Therefore, also in comparison to the created being, the power that creates him is called nothing. Because the created being does not sense it at all, that power that creates him and makes him out of nothing. If the created being would only know of the creating power that's making him, so then his entire existence would cease. He would stop being a creation. And he would expire in the power of doing, of the power of Hashem's creation that's within him. Derech Maimer Zal, similar to what the Chazal say concerning the Malach, that when Hashem chose to stop the Malachim from their interference and objection about something. So it says that Hashem stretched out his small finger amongst the Malachim and he burnt them up. So we see that when there is too much revelation of godliness that a creature cannot handle, so that causes the complete and total expiration of that creature. Same thing, if the world would be aware of the Creator, so then we would be completely nullified and expire in that awareness, in that sense of the Creator. So therefore, it has to be ayin from our perspective. It has to be non-existent in our recognition and our field. So the Rebbe goes on back to the idea of berosiv that we also spoke about. Bria is going on the creation of something from nothing, because prior to the world of Bria, it was all godliness. The first time when there is an existence other than Hashem begins with the world of Bria. It's the last paragraph on page 11, the berosiv, idea of that I've created him. Chewing in the Bria mind, yes, that's the idea of creation of from something to nothing, from nothing to something. Vishuba say the Rishtalshos, the way it's in the chain order of the set. In Yonai Oilam Haneshams, the idea behind it is, like we mentioned previously, it's also called the world of Neshams. Now we can explain these things about being Oilam Haneshamas and Yitzira Oilam Hamalachim in connection with another thing that we find. We find that the worlds of Bri, Yitzira, Asiyah is likened to three levushim, the three garments of Machshava, Dibra, Maisa, thought, speech, and deed. Whereas the world of Atzilus, there it's the spheres of the Eibishter. Over there, it's like our soul powers of our intellect and our emotions. So first, let's see how it is the thought, speech, and deed aspect. Concerning the Shams, Chazal said, Yisrael, all of Machshava, Yidden arose in the thought. So we see that the world of neshamas, where neshamas came from, has to do with Hashem's thought. The idea of thought we can derive from the way we see it down here by a person down here below. The beginning of the existence of letters, language, speech, in a way that the person can sense that they are there, that the person can be aware that they are there, is in the power of thought. Where is the first place that a person is aware of language? That's only in thought. In thought, a person could think and could realize, oh, I'm thinking in this and this language. If a person speaks multiple languages, there is very often the language which they prefer to think in. And they can be aware of that, those words in that language that he's thinking it. But in emotions, for example, you cannot ask a person, what language do you love, and what language do you hate, and what language are you scared? Over there, in emotions and higher than emotions, one is not aware of language, words, letters. The Rebbe is going to say, even though we do know that there are letters there, and the Alter Rebbe in Tanya speaks about this, the though prior to Machshava, there's concealed also a source for the letters in language. The way the letters are in Midos and Moichin, it's not yet in a category of being considered existing. As opposed to thought, that in thought, letters are felt. One can sense the letters, which are known as letters of thought. So now from this we can understand the association of Bria with Neshamas, and that says that the Neshamas all b'machshavam. So because they is house on Neshamas in such a manner, the Neshamas come into being. Shenasim Metzias Nivram in the world of Bria. That's where the existence of the Neshamas came into being, just like the letters and thought is where letters first come into being, top of page 12. Ach, bekom still in all. The neshama on its own standing in the state of love and awe to Hashem. Like it says, I swear by Hashem, the God of Yisrael, that I stood before. This means though just like thought is not something that is separated from the person. Though we call thought, and the same thing speech indeed, but we even thought is called a garment. And a garment usually indicates that there's the person and there's the garment that he's dressed in. Thought is different than an ordinary garment. Thought is joined with whatever is enclosed in it. Therefore, the thought is only for the person himself and not for another, because the thought is so joined with the person, it cannot leave the area of the person and be shared with someone else. That needs to go through a next process. Only when it comes through speech and action can be shared outward. But thought is so joined with the person that someone outside the person, under normal circumstances, is not aware. So too also the neshama from the level of its creation, it stands in a way of cleaving with godliness, just like thought is totally connected with the person. The matam is lower than the level of Bria, the world of neshama, the world of thought. In the Yitzartim is the idea that I formed that we say that the world of Yitzira is similar to the power of speech. What's the idea of the power of speech? The letters of speech are something separated from the person. And therefore also another, someone outside of the person, is cognizant and aware of the speech that I say. What is the example of this above? Like we said before, that the world of Yitzir is called the world of Malachim. Because they come into being from Hashem's thought, from the speech. Not like it says by Yisrael, it says by Yisrael, all of the Yidden arose in Hashem's thought. That is the source of the Yidden. But Malachim came from speech. Because in the word of Hashem, the heavens were made, and by the breath of his mouth, all of the hosts of heaven. All of the hosts of heaven can refer to all the inhabitants of the spiritual Shemayim, meaning the Malachim. So the Malachim were made by the speech of the Eibusher, by the breath of his mouth. They have to do with Hashem's speech. They were also created by the Asarim Amaris. Therefore, the Malachim are considered a separate entity, to such a degree that it's a possibility, there's a concept of Malachim doing an Aveda and being punished and so on. Why? Because Malachim, as opposed to Neshamas, are separated from Hashem. The Neshama itself is not trying to do an Aveda. The Neshama, when we say it sins, is only because it came down to Nefesh Bahamis in the body, in this physical world. But the Neshama on its own is not, no idea of sin is possible. But by a Malach, it's possible idea of sin. The Matam is lower than the level of Yitzirim, it says, also I have made it the Koyal El Masi, it's referring to the world of Asiya. And the world of Asiya could be either the spiritual world of Asiya, until and including the physical, material, coarse world of Asiya. That's why it says the word af, that we said that Chazal used to say whenever it says in the Torah af comes to increase and to add something that's not explicit in the pasuk. Since how did the coming into being of the physical yesh is only because of the power of the Ein Sof that we spoke about at the end of yesterday's. And the power of the Ein Sof, that is being hinted in that word af. That's that extra energy that's necessary to make the physical yesh. That power that's hidden in the word Av, that was responsible for the creation of the physical world, is beyond even the world of Yetzirah, beyond even the world of Bria, like we mentioned earlier. Any questions before we go on to Ois Dal? Okay, further on Ois Dalud, 5th page of the mind. In a Kadesh Yuchel is close in the Baros Vitzach of Assisiv, so it should be able to be the general idea that for the idea that I've created it, I've formed it, I've also made it. In other words, so it should be able to be the worlds of Bri Yitzirasiyam. So before that, you need to have the 10 spheres of Atzilus. Concerning this, it says prior to that, it says all who are called by my name and for my honor, I have created it and formed it and also made it. So the Nikra B'Shmiu L'Chvoidi is responsible for and the cause for Baros V'Yitzat V'Avasis. The Koyal has the spirit of Oil Matzilus. This, that it says, this phrase, all that's called by my name and for my honor, is referring to the 10 spirits of the world of Atzilus. Through the 10 spirits came about the coming into being of the Seder Shtalshlus of the worlds of Bri Yitzirasi. How come? Why was it necessary to have the 10 spirits to be able to cause this? The Kivan Shu Yisbarach, since Hashem is the one of truth, the true oneness, he is the only one, and there's no one besides him. So therefore, the classic question that's brought down in many svarim, how is it possible from a true and real unity and oneness could come about many, many details of the chain order of descent, but also but the idea behind this is the coming into being is through an intermediary. What is the intermediary? That in general is referring to the 10 spheres of Atzilus, that they're in such a way that they are, he and his life forces are one, and he and his bodies are one, which is referring to the 10 spheres. The 10 spheres having it chayis and having it bodies, having it like a neshama, having it like a guf. So because Hashem is completely united with the 10 spheres, therefore they are able to be an intermediary, an agent, a way how you can come from the true oneness of Hashem to the multiplicity of the creation. Therefore, they are an intermediary, the 10 spheres between him, Ihu, and the worlds of Bria Sirasiya, that they come into being because and through the 10 spheres. The fact that we call the 10 spheres as an intermediary, sometimes when we use the word memutza shows that there's some type of relationship over here. For example, sometimes in the times of the Chazal, in the times of the Gemara, there was someone called a meturgiman. The job of a meturgiman, translation is translated, but it wasn't actually translated, it was more than that. The job of a meturgiman was, he heard what the Rav was teaching, and he brought it down to a level where the students were able to understand. So he was called a Mamutz because he could relate to the deep thoughts of the Rav, and he could also understand how to bring it down to the students who weren't capable of understanding the deep thoughts of the Rav. So so the fact that he's a Mamutz means that he can relate to both. He can even relate to the Rav. True, he's not on the level of the Rav, but he's still close enough that he can relate to it. So one might think that when we call the Esa Spheres a Mamutza between the Ein Sof and the worlds, we would think that somehow the Esa Spheres are on a level akin to the Ein Sof. So that's what he says, that Masha Esa Spheres Nekroim B'Shem Mamutza Ein HaKavon Mamutza Shuba Erech Chas V'Sholem. It doesn't mean such a type of intermediary that's chas v'sholom, comparable. Hein, what we would say is as follows. Like comparison of the worlds that were created in comparison to the 10 spheres, so it's the comparison of the 10 spheres in comparison to Hashem's essence. So the truth is, it's not that way. Shari Yaduam, that's because it's known, it's known that in comparison to Hashem's essence, so both the world of Atzilus and Asiya are totally equal, like Alter Rebbe brings down in Tanya, the meaning of the words Kulam b'chachma asisa, that chachma and Asiya, chachma being the highest sphere of Atzilus, and the world of Asiya, even Asiya Gashmis, are all the same and just as far from Hashem's essence. The Chassid of Bill Parisher said this concerning, I believe, the Alter Rebbe. He said, Ich mit dem Kat ein gleich gab dem Rebbe. I and the cat are the same compared to the Alter Rebbe. So he explained, I don't mean that as far as the cat is from me, that's how far I am from the Alter Rebbe. No, it means that the Alter Rebbe is so far and so much above what I am that I and the cat are equal to him. In other words, there's no distinctions. It's like when you fly in a plane, and there's no distinctions between a tall building, a small building, a tall person, a small person. It's all the same. Elam. So why do the 10 spheres called an emutza? The fact that the 10 spheres are called an intermediary, it's only because they are the agent, the intermediary. The vehicle shall yodam yochalis nimshach me'ach to samitis beribu yom seder ishtalshus. We're holding the top of 6th page on page 13. That only through the 10 spheres can it come down from the true oneness. It can come out in the multiple worlds of seder ishtalshus. So that's why they're called an intermediary, not because they relate to the Ein Sof, but they have the capability of drawing the Ein Sof down into the worlds. Maybe we could say the same thing like, the pill pirature or even a chassid these days, that even though we're comparable to the Rebbe, but it's our job, and the Rebbe has entrusted us with this mission, to take the things that he taught and bring it down further. So we might be, the Rebbe is incomparably higher than us, but still we are able to share it further and bring it down further. The same thing at 10 spheres, as far as they are from the Ein Sof, they are still capable of translating and bringing down the Ein Sof into the multiplicity of the worlds. That's what it says. All who are called by my name and for my glory. The entire reason for the emanation of the world of Atzilus was not a creation, it's something that emanated from Hashem, is only so that there should be an intermediary, so that through it, the worlds of Biyah should be able to come into being, but also to be tzart of Avasisim. The Tachlis B'riyasam, and what is the goal of their creation? Shvila Adam is for the sake of a person. But Shakos, like it says, I made the earth and I created man on top upon the earth. What does that mean? What's the reason of the creation of a person? So the person should fulfill the 613 mitzvahs. Giselle Barasi, that's what says, I have created it. I have created it. The Gematria Taryag, the word Barasi is the numerical equivalent of 613, the 613 mitzvahs. So that's what it means in the pasuk. I made the earth and I placed the person upon it. Why? So he should fulfill the 613 mitzvahs, Barasi. Then moving from this understood. Based on that, it's not just about the earth, but it's everything that led to the earth. All the levels that I've made it, I formed it, I created it, meaning the worlds of Bri, Yitzir, Asiya, even the levels of Atzilus, all that's called by my name and for my glory. Since they're only intermediaries and tools, so I should be able to be a man upon it that I created, which is Gematria Taryag. which is the numerical equivalent of 613. The entire state and situation of the entire chain order of descent, from the beginning of all levels to the end of all levels, totally is dependent on the actions of a person down here below. And what specific actions are we referring to? Concerning his state and situation, concerning creation, which is B'Gematria Taryag, it's the numerical equivalent of 613, meaning in the study of Torah, fulfillment of mitzvahs. Since Atzilus came so that it should be able to be Bri Yitzir Asiyah came so it should be able to be man, and that man should be able to do Torah mitzvahs. If so comes out that everything is dependent upon our doing Torah mitzvahs. Our doing Torah mitzvahs supports the entire creation of Atzilus, Bri Yitzir Asiyah, and therefore impacts the entire creation according to our doing of Torah mitzvahs. I say, the Esser spheres group and the 10 spheres themselves. They are the intermediaries that enable, that should be able to be the worlds of Bri Yitzir Asiyah. In Reishisam, Spheres HaChachma, they're beginning, they're first of the 10 spheres, the sphere of Chachma. Reish is Chachma, that's why it says the Reish is Chachma. Chachma is the Reish, Chachma is the beginning. Yanu Bittel, its idea is the level of Bittel. Because Chachma is Bittel, therefore the infinite light of Hashem, the one true being, that he is the only one, there's nothing besides him, could be enclosed in Chachma. As the Rebbe goes on to explain, that the clothing of the Eibishter is in such a place that's not felt as an existence. The whole in the entire idea behind it, its whole interest, its whole focus, the entire being of Chachma is just its devotion and complete submission to the Ein Sof. This is also one of the explanations in the statement of the Tikkun Zohar, that he is one with the Chayes and he is one with the bodies. What is the Chayes that he's one with, and what is the bodies? So there are different explanations. One of the explanations is that the Chayes, and let's not forget, if we're saying, we're not saying, but we're making a distinction. There are two different categories, two different types of unity. So he's saying that when it says that he is one with the life forces that's going on the brain, especially on the sphere of Chachma. The sphere of Chachma is considered so subtle and so fine that even though there is a keli over there, it's mainly oir. It's not even seen as something being a keli. Hainu, what does it mean that it's an oir without a keli? Its whole purpose and idea is only a revelation, that through it can be the idea that I created it and I formed it and also I made it, the worlds of Bri Yitzir Asiyah. And other than that, other than this purpose of being an instrument for creating Bri Yitzir Asiyah, Chacham is not aware and does not sense anything. The only thing that it's aware of, the only thing it senses, is the onlyness of the Eibishter. That the Eibishter, it's only him, and there's nothing beside. Any questions?